You unlock this benefit with the key of Patreon. Beyond is another dimension. A dimension of thought. A dimension of speculation. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both waffle and substance. Of things and ideas. You've just crossed into the podcast zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Trekking Through the Twilight Zone. This is Julian and I working our way through the entire episode-by-episode Twilight Zone series. And we're both aboard Flight 33, and we're going to go back in time, of course, back to the future.
Got to get back to the future. That's exactly it, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is. Was definitely thinking. At one point, I thought they were going to say it in this episode. I was so like, they're going to say it. They're going to say it. This is the Odyssey of Flight 33. Just a quick one. This is it follows Flight 33. At one point, they it's hard to explain. They find themselves trapped in a jet stream, in which case their speed accelerates beyond the sound barrier and beyond things, and in doing so, they go back in time millions and millions of years to the extent that they see a dinosaur over Manhattan Island, and they actually say that the topographical similarities are there. We'll talk about all of this in a moment. And then they use the jet stream to then try and return back to the future, but find that they only go back as far as 1936, I think.
39.
39, sorry, to the World's Fair. But realize when they get into contact with ground control, they cannot land because their technology would alter history. And so they make a final attempt.
I think
it's insinuated. That's the insinuation.
See, yeah, I mean, there is that discussion of like, we don't know what a jet is with ground control. But my impression was, I didn't catch any of that. My impression was that they just want to get home. Right, they're like, we can't, land.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a minute, actually, because and how we interpret that, because it ends with them trying to re-enter the jet stream, and Rod Serling basically gives us our quantum leap ending of like, Flight 33 re-entered the jet stream, but never made its way home. And
if you look up and you see a lone jet, maybe that will be this flight. I mean, it's a weird ending.
It is, because it's inconclusive. Like they're just basically hopping through time, surviving on airplane food, which is an idea of hell. Let's be honest. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a middling episode. I mean, I like the basic idea, right? It's one of these Twilight Zone ideas that you don't really need an explanation. It feels very much like something a Fortean idea, right? Yeah. This seems like it could have come right out of Low.
Oh well, it's not this obviously Flight 33, but like there's a squadron of World War II fighter planes that sort of apparently went through the similar thing. They reported seeing something through a clouds, and then they disappeared, never to be seen again. And then what's it, Amelia Earhart completely disappearing, or all these things of planes, the Bermuda Triangle, whatever it is, this idea of planes disappearing on flights and time slips. Time slips is another one, obviously, we will mention, but there are several reports of, even in Britain, there's two very famous ones of a biplane pilot flying over a thing and seeing all the airfield at which he works, or was due to land, and everything looked different. And he described planes that would eventually be seen as Spitfires. And then he returned to 1923, I think it was. And there's been several, occasions of this. So yeah, this idea of the time slip is, as you say, a Fortean event. And I kind of like that bit of it, like the fact that they hit this jet stream, and it seems like a natural occurrence. The science, though, of this got on my nerves. I mean,
so in what way, right? I mean, the science of Back to the Future is totally down too, right?
It is. And we obviously know this thing because one of the biggest things of sort of like, if you don't travel, if you might travel in time, but you also need to travel in space because the Earth is in a different place and all that kind of stuff. the thing with this is there's certain comments, and I don't know whether this is the time, and or they just didn't educate. But when they do go back and they see the dinosaur, now you and I love that sort of claymation, stop motion, special effects. So I liked this sort of this Apatosaurus thing that looks up at them and sort of snarls. That's all great. It's the fact that the pilots are sort of like, they're like, that's Manhattan Island.
Yeah.
And there's topographical things. That's clearly Manhattan Island. And I'm going like, if you've gone back that far that you're seeing a dinosaur, then it's not Manhattan Island.
Yeah, and it wouldn't look the same. I mean,
no.
Right. But people do this all the time. And you see this in fiction all the time, that they assume a certain topographical area was even there millions of years ago.
Exactly, yeah. And that's what bothers me, because it's like, the topography of the landscape changes in hundreds of years. It changes even in decades, not millions of years.
Well, and even like Mount St. Helens is not that old. I was looking at Transformers comics, and it's like the parallel for Mount St. Helens. It's like, no, come to find out that wasn't there millions of years ago.
Yeah, so you get that sort of irritated me a little. Not irritated, sorry. It didn't really irritate me. It's the word. It got my nerves a little.
What's so stupid?
It is, but it's more the fact that one of the things that sort of that weirded me out, and again, this whole sort of thing takes place in the cockpit of this plane, and so it feels like a play. They've got this sort of this very, very fixed number of characters. It's mainly the captain and his co-pilot that sort of the thing. And obviously, because this is the past, you have someone whose job it is to basically radio in everything, and you've got like 5 people in this cockpit, which is fine if that's how a commercial jet worked in the sort of the 50s and 60s, and I'm sure that sounds right if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
But it just sort of, we said with the previous episode, like, it doesn't amount to much. And people's reactions to this just felt really sort of like, well, that's unusual. Let's try that again. Like, it never felt like the stakes or the drama never felt to be upped. And I sort of blame the guy who plays the captain. Like, he's got a wonderful voice, but it never felt like, I was waiting for the character that. It's cliches. It's stupid cliches. But like, everyone's got their shit together throughout this entire episode. Like, I want the Hicks.
God forbid.
Yeah, but like the character, even like in Alien, like the Bill Paxton character, sort of like, we're all gonna die, man. We're all gonna die. You need that to sort of have that sort of voice of hysteria.
To communicate the stakes to the audience. Yeah. I see what you're saying. I mean, I think that pilot sounds so much like Robert Stack to me, and especially especially knowing Airplane and stuff. It's hard not to sort of see him as Robert Stack, and he has the same sort of demeanor of sort of upward, upright, sort of follow the rule book, person who you're supposed to look up to. I don't know. I mean, so I'm more fine with those things than you are. My complaint is I like the sense that they are competent in the cockpit, right?
Yeah.
And he does say, like, as incredible as it sounds, we've gone back in time. And it's like, okay, well, the audience has realized it. There is a sort of lack of, oh my God, dude, what are you saying? But I do like you're right, but I do like the sort of portrayal of this as a very professional cockpit. Go ahead.
I'll say, you say about the cockpit, they only show the passengers once.
Yeah, the stewardesses talk about how there's a problem in the rest of the plane. So I was going to get to my bigger complaint is less that I need Robert Stack to go, oh shit. What my bigger complaint is, I like that the stewardess is saying people are freaking out back there. I want to see more of that.
Yes.
And so much of this plot depends on people looking out of a passenger jet and seeing, like they see a Brontosaurus, right? And seeing in detail, like the Trilon and the Perisphere from the 39 World's Fair. Okay, these are some details on the ground. If all of us have probably looked out of a passenger jet. It is hard to make stuff out.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
mostly
how
because
low
of
are
the
they?
altitude. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like you're buzzing New York, during the World's Fair. I mean, this is. I mean, in fact, you see the skyline in 39, and I thought, oh, this is like 9/11. Deploy the jets, like
Yeah.
So it's more that I'm cool with a cockpit. I'm cool with that, sort of not hanging a bow on the drama. I do think it'd be better if they did that a little more. It's not that I need to see more of the interior, but I feel like I want to feel like that 707 is a real place.
Yes.
And a little more in the interior and a little more of having passengers not just freak out, but also say like, I can't see that from my side, and sort of going over and saying, you don't even have to do the mat with the window and all of that. Just having passengers looking out going like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That is the World's Fair. You remember that and going, what's going to happen to us? Can we even land? And arguing amongst themselves.
Yeah.
I would feel the plane is a real place if I got that.
This is one of those episodes that we said before, like, could they be shorter or longer? This one could have been longer and expand on the thing. One of the weird things it does, it introduces you to two passengers. You get sort of like an older woman and a gentleman, and they sort of like exchange pleasantries, and they sort of, one of them sort of, I can't remember what she says now, but she says something like why she's going there, and he explains what his job is. And you think, oh, that's got to mean something. They're clearly, like, at least he is clearly going to come back and impact on the story or the returning, to how to get them back to the present. Nope, never come back, never get mentioned. It's just weird how these two passengers have this sort of small discussion, and I'm like, well, I thought they were going to serve the purpose that you say, like they're going to be our sort of like, they're going to be our sort of like version of going back into the, like, we can't afford this big set and all these extras, but we can afford these two, and so what we're going to do is we're going to just focus, like zoom in on these two, and they're going to provide us with that. He's going to look out the window and see the Brontosaurus or the World's Fair or whatever, and you're going to find that he's important. He's going to be the one that says we can't land. These people cannot land. We cannot land. Like, you've got to try again. But they never come back. So I was just weirded out by this sort of use of these two people.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I like what you're saying. Like, he's like, we can't land. We would change time, which I'm not sure is really addressed. And I think we'll get to that. I totally agree with you. It's really strange, and of course, we get that in a current disaster movie or something, right? The whole point is you introduce people in different settings, different classes, so you get a fuller picture of what's going on. The thing about Manhattan, of course, you're right. I first of all, give us a matte painting. Dude, have somebody draw this up. It doesn't, and just have it moving sideways, just pan a little bit across it. You don't need even any movement. And, just seeing Manhattan covered in forest, as it was before, white people got there, would be really cool. I feel as if, but I do feel as if, like, I love that imagery. I remember this episode from previous, and I remembered that I had seen it because it's described so well. It's one of those weird things that you think you've seen and you never saw. So I was shocked that I was like, yeah, I guess they didn't have an image of that in there.
Yeah.
But I feel like that kind of belongs to, like, it's so weird that belongs to a different time trip, right? Like, that belongs to, like, traveling to 1400 or, 1200 or something, as opposed to, the time of the dinosaurs. And obviously the dinosaur shot is from Dinosaurus, a 1960 movie that they stole the footage from, which is so clear. But it's still cool to see, but it's shot from the ground, right? It's shot, like, not from a plane. They just stabbed this in. So, yeah, that stuff is very weird.
Yeah, I like the fact you do get images of the 1939 World's Fair, though. That's kind of cool. But like you said, the altitude they must be flying at in order to see some of those things. Like, someone must be going like, "What the hell is that flying over New York?" My expectations for the end because as you said, the ending's a little weird in that it's left open ended. Like you said, that Sterling comes in and says, if you ever see a jet flying, it may be this and that. I was almost expecting them to sort of overshoot 1962, and maybe sort of like come in and sort of have to land in the far future, and they were going to have something of someone come on board and be like, we now understand, in this day and age, we now understand time travel, and so we've almost been waiting for you, Flight 33, like we've been able to sort of, and we might be able to get you home or something like that. But like, I thought, oh, good, they've done to the past. That'd be quite funny, interesting if they overshot 1962, because he said that they never returned. So I was hoping for that sort of thing, like, oh, they've made a life for themselves in, like, it'd be one of those years,
2600 or
like, it could be, or even like, it'd be one of those years that's sort of like it's 2003, and everyone's in jetpacks and flying cars. So I just don't know. What were your thoughts on the end?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I feel as if it's weird what's included and what isn't, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they're compressing at some point in the script. Maybe it was 2 different time periods earlier on. I don't need the dinosaur. I mean, like, that's so far back that it seems like, I don't know. It seems too far, especially to move with any precision forward and backward. I don't know how they know to catch it going the other way, right? Like, how could they? I mean, none of this really makes sense. As far as the ending goes, again, we talked about the previous episode of the woman who had sort of predestination of her own death, the cognitive ability there, where it feels like almost an urban legend. This sort of feels like that urban legend of like a time slip or the Marie Celeste and that kind of thing. But I think as a viewer, it just feels like they ran out of time, which is not a great feeling.
No, like, this is the one where you want a part 2. I'm like, oh, how do they get home? What happens? What happens is playing? Or even they join it, it goes wrong, and you find like an archaeological dig, and it'll say sort of like, New York, 1962, and they're unearthing a marshland, and you see them dig, and it reveals, Flight 33 or something. It's been there since
the Paleolithic era or something.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome, right?
A fossilized plane, like it really went tits up, like they crashed in. Then they've got to explain it. Like, that's the sort of, it needs a full stop, and it doesn't have that full stop that I was hoping for from a Twilight Zone episode. Anyway, any full thoughts on
slight revision and a couple matte paintings would have done a lot of great work here. I will, as a final thought, just say I love the sort of look back on the golden age of aviation. This was a real 707 like mock-up that they had access to that was used for flight training, and Serling's brother was actually a pilot, so he consulted on like the cabin stuff.
Oh wow!
And I love seeing the seats. Like, they're full seats, like they're not little bucket seats. And I kind of have a romance for this golden age of aviation. So, obviously that's not the main thing, but it's kind of cool seeing.
No, I know what you mean. That little glimpse is quite cool. Knowing this is actually that accurate that's kind of cool. I did enjoy that aspect of it. But yes, no, that is good. Anyway, any last thoughts? Anything else?
No, great points. All great points all around, man. I love the, you need to just be writing these. We need to go back in time, and you could say, Serling.
Come in like Doc Brown. Serling, it's about the second season. Anyway, yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on Flight 33. I hope that when you disembark, you've enjoyed this episode, and that you'll join us in the future. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and we'll catch you on the next episode.